All right, going back to the conversation before the news, we've been talking about Biden's dementia, diminished cognitive abilities, and maybe there's another type that elicits some kind of grandiose expressions of power. I mean, is there a syndrome? And I don't know. I'm certainly not a psychologist.
I do know, and yes, there is, where you think you're
Okay.
everybody. I could even try to find the name of it, but anyway, it exists.
Okay.
I
Well,
guarantee it.
let's just say I'm going to call it a syndrome involving narcissistic grandiose delusions. I don't know. I mean, it's a Napoleonic view, maybe. Maybe you don't all have to be small to be able to get that. But at any rate, if so, if this exists, what are the dangers if a person holds virtually unlimited power, and maybe real power that's virtually unlimited, but in their own mind it is unlimited, and no one seeks to check it? Okay, this is a dangerous syndrome. If that person lives in an echo chamber, that they only have sycophants around them that are reinforcing, "Oh yes, sir, you're so brilliant." I mean, this idea of the emperor having no clothes. Everybody's standing around, "Oh, but you're so wonderful in your new clothing and everything like that. It's so great," and everything like that. Nobody ever says, "You know what? You're running around naked." And so here's kind of where I come from on this, Sam.
And let's
we
be
can
clear, this
discuss
is
it.
a listener or whatever you want to say, a viewer or participant in the webinars last night that brought this up, right?
And so here's the deal. I said, this is another good reason for constitutions. To have people in office who are true to their oath and will step in to check the demented use of power. So the president's cabinet, the president's vice president, everybody, Secretary of State, Secretary of War, whatever you want to call them, all of those people are sitting there, and if all they're doing is clapping the naked emperor as he struts down the parade, and the naked emperor thinks they're pretty hot stuff, and what about Congress? I mean, look what Caesar did to his Senate. He came into power and he decided he was going to defang them, so to speak. I mean, there's a lot of terms we could use. But the fact is, he became this grandiose leader that was going to do it. And ultimately and finally, it led to the demise of the republic. Okay? But the fact of the matter is that if you have a constitutional republic and every office has its responsibility in its office to push back against usurpation that encroaches into there. This president has done everything he wanted to do by executive order. Yeah, he got this big, beautiful bill passed, but you know what? It was because he arm twisted and browbeat a Congress that went in and foolishly passed a bill that was a hodgepodge of just things that were so unconstitutional.
Well, and for the midterms, they don't even want to call it the big, beautiful bill now. What they want to do is just try to focus on pieces that they believe are winning phrases, winning terms, to try to avoid the albatross around the neck or whatever you want to call it, that this big, beautiful bill is. They know that it's disaster, but they want to try to pull some of the good parts from it. And I agree there's a couple of good parts. If you just ignore everything else, I would have never voted for it. But all I'm saying is this is something critical, and now they're trying to kind of divorce themselves from it for the midterms. It won't be enough. They'll still lose big time. Even Trump's now admitting that, hey, they've probably lost the midterms, and, so there you go.
This war, literally, Sam, I mean, it's a kinetic war, big booms everywhere, explosive stuff. I think that this war single-handedly destroyed every single thing Trump promised during his election run, except for maybe border control. They maybe have got the illegals coming in from the south a lot diminished. But the point of the matter is, if Republicans thought they were going to win this this midterm election, I think there's a strong likelihood, not just a probability, a likelihood that certainly the House will be lost by a very large margin, and the Senate is even at risk now. At first, I didn't think the dynamic was such that it'd make a big swing there, but I think it's getting pretty thin. And if people think, oh, we got to have the Republicans in there, well, what happens if you've got somebody that's gets elected under false pretenses and then violates every aspect of every campaign promise that was made? I mean, we could tick them off, take them, everything down the list. Tell me what's happened other than closing the border. And that has come at great cost in terms of the way that the people are being picked up on the streets. And by the way, look, these guys, the ICE guys, they get like 47 days of training. Everybody else gets 6 months. I mean, all the other federal law enforcement people. And the thing I said in both of the killings in Minnesota, my comment on that in every instance has been poorly trained cowards were the ones that were pulling the triggers very fast. Now, you can avoid a lot of problems. You know, trigger control is a big issue. We get into, I'm a firearms instructor, but you know what? Trigger control, knowing when to pull and when to not, and when you let cowards have a firearm with a full magazine in it, and they empty it into somebody's back that's laying face down on the ground, there's something really wrong with this.
There is something really wrong with it, and that's why we don't want to name names because, hey, this, psychosis, whatever you want to call it, self-grandeur, whatever, it might be Biden, it might be, some of the people that work for the, some of these agencies, it might be a lot of things. But really, in my mind, when Trump basically, I don't know if you know this, but President Trump's signature will now be added to all denominations of money. Yeah, it's the first for a sitting president. The Treasury Department now announced, and they say they got to do this. It's awesome. It started in June 2025 already with the $100 bills. Had Trump's name in addition to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's signature. This modification seeks to change the tradition since 1861 that we would not have, modern presidents or acting presidents on notes. Now they link it. This treasurer, Brandon Beach, said he supported the decision. They're linking it to the upcoming 250th anniversary of the United States, symbolizing prosperity, strength under Trump's incredible leadership. So see, this policy will persist until it's altered by a future administration. So think about that. Why does Trump need to do that? What value is that? What is the cost to even make that happen? I mean, I just look at this and go, who does this guy think he is? And then you have the No Kings folks running around now. They're going to have their biggest day tomorrow on the 28th, and they say that it'll be the biggest protest in history. They have well over 3,000 locations. They say millions will be involved, and then they document their previous ones. They say they've had millions involved. The additional June 25 had about 5 million people, they say, to about 1,800 venues for protest. They say the main event will be held in the Twin Cities. They say in Kansas City over 20,000 will be there. Anyway, I don't even know how to respond to some of this because it's just so outlandish. And so on one hand, I don't think Trump's a king. On the other hand, though, why are you really going to change the currency to have your signature? Now we don't even need the treasurer's signature on it. It's just got to be Donald's. You just kind of go, man, what is happening here, Doctor?
Well, it's very interesting to me. I referred very briefly in passing to the Caesar Senate issue anciently. But if you look at that, I mean, Trump spent 10 years building a populist movement. I mean, attending CPAC regularly, making speeches all over the place. And he was at center stage as much as possible, but now he is the center stage. And the thing is, it's like great people don't tout their own greatness. I mean, he's always saying, I want to have the Medal of Honor. Well, guess what? There's some other things you got to do before that. I want the Nobel Peace Prize. Well, there's some other people who are in charge of that. Well, I want to name this big symphony hall in New York of myself. I want to, and the problem is that normally greatness comes and then others recognize it and respond to that. Instead of constantly touting yourself, oh, you're so lucky to have me in the room with you. I let you in the room. Aren't you fortunate to be here? It's like, no, wait a minute.
And I find it comical. Why do we need his name on the I mean, I agree,
don't.
supporting America being great, but why do we need to change the currency to have Trump's name on it and to be so until another president overrides it? Now, another president could be, hey, I'm going to bring it back to just the treasurer signing it, or I could bring it to whoever the next president is. They could start to put their names on them or whatever. I mean, is that law? If it's law, then does the president have the authority to change it? I mean, we have all kinds of questions about this, Doctor.
Oh, we do. And by the way, why should we start looking at the fact that Article 1, Section 1 of the United States Constitution says all legislative authority granted within the Constitution is for the House and the Senate to exercise.
Except for changing the law and putting Sam Bushman on the currency. You know what I'm talking about? I think Sam Bushman ought to be on there. See, that's just insanity. Any law, absolutely. But the only reason to do this is Trump wants his name everywhere. I'm Sam Bushman.
Do you know what is great about America? Ask an Immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace-Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20 plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
Attention collectors and savvy investors. We are excited to announce a momentous evolution in our journey. Introducing Freewater Coin Company, formerly known as Rust Coin and Gift. This rebranding takes us back to the very roots of where it all began, Freewater, Oregon. It's a tribute to the legacy of Al Rust and a celebration of 3 generations of dedication to excellence in the world of coins and precious gifts. Al, Brian, and Jake Rust standing strong through 64 years of service. Discover a world of exceptional service at Freewater Coin Company, your premier destination for genuine, honest money and precious gifts. Under Brian's expert guidance, Freewater Coin Company, building on the legacy of Rust Coin and Gift, continues its tradition of trust and excellence. Visit us at our Provo, Utah location. Explore our treasures online at freewatercoinco.com or call us at 801-377-1574. Freewater Coin Company, where your future is built one honest coin at a time.
All right, back with you live, Dr. Scott Bradley, freedomsrisingsun.com, yours truly. So Trump wants his signature on all the money now. I mean, I don't understand that. I mean, that's just absolute. What's the value or need of that? Wake up, America, and save our magnificent nation. Doctor, I don't agree with the No Kings protests. I think they're crazy, too. It's kind of like the Patriot Act. I think it's a lie. Everybody's calling good evil and evil good these days. But I look at it and I just go, man, we have got to save our country, though. I don't want a modern president promoting his name everywhere long after he's gone. Everything he puts his name on, he uses to turn into money for himself and his family and his, quote, dynasty, so to speak. And we don't. The founders really warned about this dynasty building stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely. The whole intent was to limit the power of those that held the responsibilities that were necessary to run a nation. They put checks and balances, they divided and subdivided it, they put blocks to stop things, and we have completely abandoned that. The House and the Senate are like, I call them empty suits, and I think I'm being very kind in that. I do not see more than a handful of individuals that are truly trying to restore what this nation was to begin with. Now, this question that you talk about, waking up America and saving our nation, that wasn't really a question. That was point number 7, if you will. I wasn't teary-eyed, but I kind of was in a way. I mean, I weep, literally. This was me kind of shooting off my mouth, if you will, and I hesitate to even bring it up. But once you've heard and seen the questions that come into me and get shared every Thursday night, and the absolute tragic things that are happening to this great nation. It's slipping through our fingers. And I kind of, waxed a little bit reminiscent of things. I grew up in the, early post-World War II era, and you talk about the TVs, the Ozzie and Harriets and the Father Knows Best and the Leave It to Beaver and stuff. And you get into the 60s and you got, tune in, turn on, drop out, kind of thing. And the sexual revolution and the things that just blew up in American streets and the unconstitutional Vietnam War. Now, I was a dumb kid. I joined before I got, drafted. I never would have been drafted based on my lottery number, but I'd been in months and months before the numbers were drawn. Anyway, as I reflect on that and what is slipping through our fingers, what is being lost every single day, I weep. I truly do. This great, magnificent gift from God of a free land, a land of liberty, a land with proper limited government, a land where prosperity can rule and reign, where we can provide for our families, where we can worship our God and perform all the labors he would put upon us and direct us to for the good of mankind. This is slipping through our fingers, the acrimony, the division. I mean, it is so discouraging to think that our grandchildren, if we continue on this path, will never know what was lost that was before their day. I mean, the thing is, when I was doing the broadcast last night, we had some grandkids here, and they weren't in the room with me because there's no way you could keep the noise level low enough to exchange information. But they're innocent, they're sweet, they're pure, they're delightful, they're a gift from God. And they are depending on us today. We hold the keys of the kingdom, if you will, right now. But right now, we have abandoned, and it hasn't just been in the last just over a year since Trump got in as president, and it certainly didn't start.
It's been over our whole lifetimes. It just seems to be accelerating is the problem, and that's why we're prompted to kind of say, hey, folks, wake up, America. We have got to turn to God Almighty and repent, and he will heal our land. If we want to save our magnificent nation, it starts with religious liberty, because all other liberties are downhill from religious liberty, ladies and gentlemen. That's just the truth of the matter. Why did Trump miss CPAC this year? That's a good question. You don't need to speak at CPAC anymore, lame duck, or what's the deal?
Well, okay, I have an opinion. It's like a nose. Everybody has one. But he spent the last 10 years or so, I think it's been 10 years that he's attended CPAC, and this one is in Dallas, and it's still on for today and tomorrow too, but he's abandoned it. Now people could say, oh, well, he's just focusing on his job. He can't be elected again. He has bigger fish to fry. Yesterday he had his first war cabinet meeting, and so yeah, there's a lot of great excuses. But the theme this year at CPAC is unity, and what I've watched of it, I think that's a facade. I think that the great populist movement that Trump built for 10 years, and with all the election promises and everything like that, I think that the MAGA movement has been fractured over this war. I mean, a war precipitated at foreign direction. There's no imminent threat. It's a new bigger
and MAGA's
war.
fractured for a lot of reasons. The war's one of them, but even things as simple as Donald Trump, I don't know if you know, but he voted by mail-in ballot.
Yeah, he did.
And now everybody's critical of him for that, and he says, hey, listen, I'm the president. There are such things as legitimate mail-in ballots. It's not the same if I request a ballot because I'm absentee. That's not the same. Trump's right on all that, except for this. When you complain there's election fraud and you're standing against mail-in balloting, and then you do that, I mean, you could have made the effort to go as president and vote and say, folks, this is one of the most sacred things, and I'm voting in person, and we need same-day voting, and I really recommend you do too. So when he does this, I get that there are legitimate reasons for absentee balloting. But when you're against mail-in balloting and you're talking about election fraud everywhere else, and then you go ahead and do that, again, it just sends a bad precedent. And so I think Trump's not at CPAC this year because he's afraid that he might get blowback that won't look good.
Well, I think that your assessment is correct on that. Everything he has done in recent weeks, for sure, and months probably, is a dramatic departure from his America First MAGA promise that got him elected just over a year ago. And I think that his non-attendance is motivated, at least in part, by his worry that many prominent voices in the CPAC audience would have booed him, and he didn't want to face the disparagement.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. And the next issue that's dividing America, too, is we really thought that when Trump got in, we would have government stop spying on the people, stop creating and collecting dossiers on the people. And then all of a sudden, Real ID, which we fought for 20-plus years, every one of us fought against it, boom, Donald gets elected again, and bam, Real ID becomes reality. And now there's growing concerns, even in the MAGA movement, by the way, of government entities by the dozens, hundreds, I don't even know what numbers, gathering dossiers on American citizens. It's not going away. It's these cameras that are everywhere. It's these, the Real ID. It's now the voter ID. And everything is pointing to, hey, they want to gather information on you and me illegally, unconstitutionally. FISA 702 or whatever it is, the Patriot Act crap coming up again. And now that's being delayed by Mike Johnson, so they can hopefully change that. Hopefully they will. But my prediction is they'll pass it. It's not a Patriot Act. It's criminal activity on the Patriot. It's violating your 4th and 5th and 9th and 10th Amendments and everything else. But it's just going wholesale under Trump, and it's not being stopped at all. In fact, it's being expanded like you would not believe.
You're right. And one of the questions that came up last night about government agencies are funding and working with private entities to obtain and use private information without search warrants.
And we just had Paul Gosar on yesterday with a bill trying to stop that with gun registries funded by the federal government, promoted by and enacted by the states. And he's trying to stop that. And we're trying to help him do that. But this is happening under Trump, and Trump's just too busy telling you he's going to put his name on the money. He doesn't have time to work on that, see? But you got federal funding of state databases relating to your right to keep and bear arms. And it's got to stop. And Paul Gosar speaking out about it. Good for him, congressman from Arizona. But this is the stuff we're talking about. It's just happening wholesale, Doctor.
Well, you've got these big tech bazillionaires that get funded by government agencies, CIA, for example, to build these, Palantir and Flock and all those kinds of surveillance systems. And then the government has access to these private entities, and they go in and they pick the information out of it. They don't get search warrants.
Well, they actually even buy the information from these third parties, and that way they get around all the laws, and then they use this information against the American people.
Well, there's a bill. It's not perfect. It's called the Government Surveillance Reform Act of 2026. It's an act that says, basically, and we're out of time, I know, but basically it says, if a policing agency would have to get a search warrant, if it were seeking the information it's looking for, it cannot get the information from one of these private entities without a search warrant also.
And my response would be, yeah, duh. But see, that's the loophole in the law that's being exploited during the Trump administration, right?
Well, and it's been exploited for years. And, free societies don't build dossiers on their citizens. But we are building dossiers that Gestapo or the KGB or the Stasi or whomever you want to think about that were the iron-handed, horrid people that were in tyrannies. Right now in America, we build dossiers at a whim. And these agencies are paying to have software developed. They become private companies, and then the agencies obtain that information from the private companies without search warrants.
It's criminal. It's got to stop. And then they're going to turn that into a dossier, and they're going to eventually have programmable money and control your money with it. And they're going to basically have the communist Chinese-backed social credit score tied to it and everything else. We're going towards that direction at a breakneck speed, ladies and gentlemen, and we're here to call BS. We're here to shout out a warning. We, the people, better stand up and stop it right away, or we're going to be in serious, serious trouble. Now Donald's even admitting that they've already lost the midterms for the House, probably the Senate. We'll keep an eye on that ball as well. Thanks for being alongside for the ride. Dr. Scott Bradley, freedomsrisingsun.com. Check out his incredible collegiate series to preserve the nation. Also check out his weekly webinars on the Constitution. LibertyRoundtable.com, LibertyNewsRadio.com. God save the Republic of the United States of America.